How's it going, you guys? And welcome to Mornin'Cup. Now, we started off with reports from across the spectrum dictating a lot of bad news, considering that first and foremost that Myanmar experienced a new bloodiest day in the history of the coup. 38 people were killed by police in Yangon. Now, Yangon has been the biggest city in Myanmar that has seen the largest scale of protests since the coup began. And since the conception of the coup itself, we saw that the protesters were largely peaceful. But ever since the coup started ramping up its violence against its own people, we saw that the people were not holding back in any way, shape, or form. We saw that there was retaliation amongst various sectors, some peaceful, some not so much. And now, with this latest onset, we understand the fact that in early hours in the evening, in northern region in Yangon, people were shot at without a warning. The police opened fire at a close concentration of protesters, killing upwards of 38 people in plain sight. Now, this has been the bloodiest crackdown on civil protests since the early 2000s, and what we understand today is the fact that international outcry, the likes of which we did not see earlier, regarding the Myanmar coup is now underway. We also understand the fact that more sanctions are now being slapped on Myanmarese coup leaders as well as the army itself. And apart from that, strongly hearing facts that international boots on the ground initiatives and interventions might just be a possibility. Might not just be just a possibility, but might just be a requirement today to ensure the fact that the people of Myanmar get the justice and the liberation that they deserve. We also move on to the fact that we understood that on February the 16th there was a rocket strike in one of the bases that housed United States troops as well as civil contractors. When this rocket strike happened, it injured two United States officers as well as killed one civil contractor. In retaliation to this, President Biden then launched what seemed to be a drone strike. Now, drone strikes have been largely criticized and well under intense scrutiny ever since the Obama years, when Obama used drone strikes left, right, and center to level down numerous threats to the United States, or so it seemed. In Afghanistan, there was a lot of misidentification of targets when drones would bomb weddings, drones would bomb birthday parties, and people lost their lives that had nothing to do with any illegal activities ever. You see, the collateral when it comes to a drone strike is very significant, as people would bomb an entire venue just to kill one person, and they would be okay with that. And this is the report that's been put out by the United Nations Human Rights Council as well, that there has been significant loss of life with drone strikes without consideration, that the collateral is just too much and people don't care about it. Launching a missile from a remote location in Nevada while you're killing hundreds if not thousands of people in a remote village in Afghanistan because you believe that there might be a terrorist there. An emphasis on the word might is just dreadful to even consider, but that is the fact and that is the life of the people in Afghanistan as we know it. Now, these drone strikes have been a policy of the Biden-Obama administration since way back in the day. And now with Biden being the president, we see it come back swiftly. Biden bombed a Syrian base wherein they believe oppositions and the people responsible for the initial rocket strike were harbored. Now, any and all casualties that were figured out in that airstrike, no one knows about, because of course, why would they report their own casualties considering that they are rebel forces, if you will. In retaliation to that drone strike, we now today understand the fact that upwards of 10 rockets were fired onto the same base. 10 rockets were fired by those rebel forces back towards the same base in which they killed one US contractor as well as injured severely two United States soldiers. Now, the US Army has not put out a statement dictating any loss of life or any casualties as of now, but as we understand by any ongoing situation when it comes to national security as well as when we understand about pre-war ensembles, no lists of casualties as well as no damage to, well, their lines of work or their array of equipment is ever going to be reported, considering that they don't want to fuel the fire of the rebels even more by giving them the gratification that they hit what they wanted to hit. But if we're talking about one rocket that was launched way back then and it managed to, well, severely wound two soldiers and killed a contractor, we understand that 10 rockets could have done way more damage. Whether this incites an all-new conflict in the region, well, maybe, maybe not. But right-wing media is having a field day with it, considering the fact that they are openly dictating that 2 months into Biden's presidency, he has already taken the United States into an all-new boots on the ground initiative with a war in the Middle East yet again, and a war against a proxy nation, if you will. because no direct contact is being made with the United States troops as well as the Iranian troops for now. But what we do understand is the fact that there is a lot of tension in the region and a proxy war zone is being created in Syria. And if these two nations, along with other nations that are currently involved in Syria, if all of these nations start going at it in Syria, Syria is going to turn into a war zone, the likes of which we've never seen before. You see, every nation that has fought wars outside of its own borders has never cared about the collateral. And if Syria turns into a proxy war zone, we can best believe that weapons are going to be used in Syria that damage the people, the native land, the native environment of Syria, to a point in which it's going to be next to impossible for the people to recuperate and sustain a life for themselves again in Syria. What we do understand today is that tensions are rising as we speak, whether this turns into an all-out declaration of war of some sorts, or whether this turns into an initiative in which we actually see United States Army or United States Marine Force or United States Defense Forces, no matter who they might be, have a boots on the ground operation sooner rather than later. It's still anyone's guess, but we also can best believe that such information is not going to be put out anytime soon. Even if they conduct operations like this, information regarding the same is not going to be put out for you and me to consume as soon as it happens. It's going to take a long time for some media houses, some media operations to get an insider view, an insider opinion, an insider information leak, and then we can talk about it months, maybe years down the lane. But what we do understand is this is the new hot zone when it comes to the next brewing war. And if, God forbid, any one of these nations goes to war in Syria, we can only hope and pray that we don't see weapons of mass destruction being used. With that being said, we understand this is turning into a dark day, with Myanmar and 38 people being shot blatantly with no concern of loss of life in their own nation by their own police that's supposed to protect them, rather is shooting at them because they're asking for their rights to be restored, to the other side wherein an all new war zone is being brewed. We understand that it's ever more prevalent today to be updated about all things the world has to offer than what we can comprehend in a single 24-hour news cycle. So make sure that you stay tuned to this space, and as soon as we know more, you'll know more. But until then, this has been your Morning Cup. I'll see you tomorrow.